Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, whilst the right-wing media try to claim that making Jeremy Clarkson's kids pay inheritance tax is what's going to bring British farming down, the latest is on an £800 million hit to arable farming in Britain this season, caused by bad harvests. And what's been causing these bad harvests? Climate change. And it's not just one particularly bad year either. It's becoming more frequent, and farmers are desperately asking the government to push for net zero, but also for help making their farms more resilient. Because there are two ways to deal with this, and we need a combination of the two. The first is to try to arrest the climate changes underway, because it's literally destroying our capacity to grow food. Food's quite important. The second is to adapt to changes, because we cannot realistically take our climate back to where it was 50 years ago. Nigel Farage is not interested in either of these solutions. He is no friend to farming communities. He would just accelerate their destruction and make us dependent upon imports, whilst making sure those imports are even more expensive with his destructive trade policies. But never mind the foghorn of ignorance for now. Let's begin with what's been happening in farming, which most of the mainstream media don't seem interested in reporting. Last season, perfect storm of extreme weather wiped nearly £800 million from the value of UK crops. But this isn't just a story about one bad year. It's a warning shot. For decades, a slow-burning crisis has been building beneath our fields, and it has finally erupted. This is the story of how thousands of British farmers are now pushed to the brink. The catastrophe of 2025 began quietly. The spring and summer were the hottest ever recorded in the UK, and with that heat came a devastating drought. We still have the hosepipe bans, right? For arable farmers, this combination was a death sentence for their crops. The result, an economic cataclysm. An estimated £828 million in revenue vanished from farmers growing staple crops like wheat, barley, oats, oilseed rape. Revenue from oilseed rape plummeted by over 38%, oats by over 21%, milling wheat by nearly 20% compared to the average. To put that in perspective, England's 2025 harvest was the second worst since detailed records began. And the really bad part, 3 of the 5 worst harvests on record have all happened in the last 5 years. This is not a freak event, it's a pattern now, and it's only going to continue. Across the country, the fields told a story of failure, but numbers on a spreadsheet don't tell the whole story. On the ground, the reality was more personal and painful. There were farmers who saw their life's work wither before their eyes. Yields that should have been 8 or 9 tonnes per hectare coming in at half of that. Some reporting it as low as 4 tonnes. Now imagine planning your entire year around an expected income only to see it evaporate. One farmer had anticipated a £20,000 income from the wheat crop. Instead, after a disastrous harvest, left with £3,000 loss, before even accounting for the extra costs of repairs and running the combine. Total deficit on that single crop spiraled to about £15,000 all told. That is the brutal maths of modern farming. The costs don't go away just because the rain doesn't come. Now, you could argue there's a certain amount of risk in farming, and a bad harvest in a particular year can always happen, but it's happening frequently now. The bills for fertiliser, fuel and crop protection already higher thanks to Farage's Brexit. These fixed costs are relentless. When your harvest fails, what should have been a year with a profit turns into a loss. For some, government environmental stewardship schemes are bringing in more reliable income than growing food. That is a sign of a system that's sort of out of balance. And the crisis wasn't limited to crops. Livestock farmers watched their green pastures turn brown and barren, which means they had to break into their winter feed reserves in the middle of summer just to keep their animals fed. This set them up for a future of desperate feed shortages and skyrocketing costs. Got so bad that some farmers were forced to irrigate cereal crops, which is something that is almost unheard of. A clear signal of just how dire the season had become. The £800 million loss is a headline figure, but really it's just a symptom of a much deeper problem that threatens the foundation of food security. See, while farmers were fighting the weather, they're also fighting a losing battle for the land itself. Due to various factors, some analyses suggest UK food production could fall by more than 32% by 2050. Factoring in population growth, the amount of food we produce per person could plummet. This would force us to rely on other countries for much more of our food than we already do, with worst case scenarios projecting that imports could need to soar dramatically. After all, climate change is hitting farming around the world, not just here, although only we were dumb enough to make food imports from our continent more expensive with Brexit as well. And it's not just an economic issue, it's a national security issue. Relying so heavily on imports makes us very vulnerable to global price shocks, supply chain disruptions, war. When a crisis hits elsewhere in the world, the UK will be at the mercy of international markets, and the first to feel the pain will be low-income households facing an explosion in food prices. The Farmageddon of 2025 wasn't just about a failed harvest. It's a glimpse into a future where our food supply is no longer in our own hands. But in the midst of this devastation, there are pockets of hope, clues to a different way forward. Beyond the work that we are doing on net zero, the 2025 drought, as destructive as it was, also served as a huge real-world experiment, and the results have been clear. The health of the soil, one of the biggest factors in determining whether a farm survived or didn't. Across the countries, there were farms that have spent years investing in their soil through regenerative practices, showing resilience. The reason wasn't magic, it was science. Yes, I'm sneaking science into this now. Years of prioritising soil health, building up organic matter through various methods, improving the soil structure have paid off. Healthy soil acts like a sponge. It holds onto water for far longer, creating a reservoir for plant roots to tap into during those dry spells, those droughts. The farms that worked on this saw their crops develop deeper root systems, which enabled them to reach moisture that was unavailable to struggling plants if it was in compacted, lifeless soil. Even under the immense stress of the drought, these healthier soils led to more productive crop growth. And that right there is the first and perhaps most important part of the solution. It's not about finding a single miracle crop or a new chemical. It's about going back to basics, rebuilding the foundation of all agriculture, the soil itself. Focus on practices that build organic matter. We can create farms that are not only more productive, but are naturally more resilient to the extreme weather that we know is coming. It's here to stay. It's an investment that pays dividends in both good years and bad. And it's a strategy that can be deployed on every single farm starting today. Fighting back from the brink of Farmageddon requires more than just healthier soil on individual farms. It's going to take a radical redesign of our approach to food, farming, and land use at a national level. The crisis has exposed the deep fractures in our system, but it has also forged a clear blueprint for how to fix it. Experts have identified 3 critical priorities that must be tackled immediately. First, we have to boost productivity through science and innovation, not Farage and fascism. For years, the UK's agricultural yield improvements have stalled. To meet our climate goals and protect nature without sacrificing food supply, because we kind of need it, we have to get more from the land we have. That means a coordinated national effort to fund agricultural research and, crucially, get that new technology and knowledge into the hands of farmers who can use it. We cannot afford to be sick of experts. Second, we need to get smarter about how we use our land. The current approach is often a bit of a mess. Labour's National Land Use Framework aims to fix this. Instead of trying to do a little bit of everything everywhere, this strategy focuses on maximising food production on our most fertile land. That allows other goals like rewilding or solar energy, which are also important, to be concentrated on less productive land, protecting our ability to grow food at scale. It's a strategic choice to farm where we farm best. Third, and this is a big one, government policy needs to get its act together. Right now, agricultural policy, environmental goals, energy strategy, trade deals often pull in completely opposite direction. Farmers are caught in the middle, navigating a maze of conflicting incentives that undermine both food production and environmental protection. We need a single aligned vision where every government department is working towards the same two goals: a resilient environment and a secure homegrown food supply. These aren't just vague ideas, they are concrete strategic shifts that can pull the UK agriculture back from the brink. Food supply is nothing short of a top government priority, but so many have taken it for granted because it hasn't been a major consideration for government for decades. The 2025 harvest isn't just a financial loss, it's a warning. It reveals the deep vulnerabilities in a system we all depend on. The combination of extreme weather, shrinking farmland, fragmented policies creates a perfect storm that threatens not just the livelihoods of farmers, but the security of our national food supply. But this story doesn't have to end in disaster. The path to a resilient and prosperous future for British agriculture is clear. The experts know what to do. It lies in rebuilding our soils, embracing innovation, making strategic choices about our land, and demanding coherent, long-term policies from our leaders. We've already seen the damage of climate change to food availability and prices, so we need to counter it. We've also seen how we can make our farmland more resilient to the extreme weather, which is now an increasingly common feature because some farmers have been doing that. We just need to make sure all farmers are doing that. We need to put this knowledge into action, but it would also be good if more people knew about it in order to counter the threat of Farage, who would destroy British farming despite what he claims. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. Click the bell notification icon so you know when new videos are coming out. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.